committee and the Oversight Commission adopted as recommendations to the Sheriff's Department. There are a few policies that are problematic or don't take full advantage of the Sheriff's Department's proposed policies that are problematic, or don't take full advantage of the benefits of body-worn cameras, both to the public and to the Sheriff's Department. So the long and short of it is, we had hoped to have something to you today. We don't, but I am optimistic that we've had 2 meetings already of the ad hoc committee on body-worn cameras, and I'm optimistic that within the next week or 2, we'll have a report with respect to the few areas that we think warrant recommendations for further considerations by the Sheriff's Department with respect to body-worn cameras and policies surrounding them. I think we're all in agreement, certainly the ad hoc committee was, that whatever we do here, it's important not to make the perfect the enemy of the good, and that is that whatever we're doing here, that we not slow down the implementation of body-worn cameras at the earliest possible time by the Sheriff's Department. So that's a very brief update, status report on where we're at.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to hearing more, and possibly will be an agenda item for the March meeting then. Okay, so now we have an opportunity. Are there any other questions? Sorry, committee work.
Not on the body-worn cameras, although I applaud the work that they're doing. As to the ad hoc committee on the deputy clerks, you've heard, and others on the commission have applauded the Sheriff's Department for putting their policy on their website. As with anything, the proof will be what they end up doing with it. And I'm hopeful that with the oversight of this commission, that they will follow through with what their policy purports to say. I did want to note that yesterday, in various media sources had indicated that the district attorney's office determined that, according to their report, that there was insufficient evidence to file criminal charges against, I believe, 4 suspects in the Banditos altercation from a year ago. And I think now the next step is to see what the Sheriff's Department does in terms of its internal investigation of that event, and whether it makes a determination to hold any of those allegedly involved responsible. For those of you who don't know, law enforcement generally does not do an internal review until criminal charges are investigated and determined whether or not there's a filing. And unfortunately, oftentimes that criminal determination takes a long, long time. At least we now know what the district attorney's office has determined that they are not going to do. So the ball is now in the sheriff's corner to do a full and complete investigation on its own. And I hope that they have already begun the process. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and that'll be another note for us to follow up. Yes. Thank you so much. Any other comments, reports, questions, commentary? Okay, let's move to public comment. And now we're open to comment on any topics, some of which we've discussed today, or other topics that you think are of interest to the work that we do.
Raul Rodriguez, followed by Nadia Ramirez.
Good morning again. I think it's important that the job you're doing is very important, because you need to do your job of making sure that the sheriff does his job of representing the community and the fact that now you can use the subpoena power to get information. So you need to hold his feet to the fire. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The following speakers signed up for item 3 and 4.
Okay, we could have that all together.
Nadia Ramirez.
Hi, good morning. It's my first time on the phone. I don't want to interrupt, but I'm here to speak on behalf of my cousin who was killed 5 months ago by the cops. And I commend you for putting body cams on those police officers, because when he was killed, the stuff that was said on his killing were not true. And we want you guys to be able to help the community with the killing, because Christian almost is not the only killing that has happened in this community. It has been more than once. We continuously, as a community, continue to get harassed by the police department, and we feel like nothing is being done. And Mr. Robert, I wanted to ask you, what would you be doing to help with those body cams? How soon will you get those body cams on those police officers? And how will those videos be uploaded? Will they be altercated? Will they be not allowed to be revised? Will the truth come out if someone is to be killed, like Christian almost was? That is my question to you.
We'll make sure we're looking at those questions as part of the sheriff's policy, but it's the sheriff actually that makes the ultimate decisions on what policies will surround body-worn cameras. We can only recommend what he should do, and that's what we'll be doing. And perhaps that'll be on for the next next meeting, I'm not sure.
Will they have to? My other question for you is, will these officers have to have these cameras on at all times, regardless of the situation that's going on?
That's a good question. There is a policy on it. I would commend that you take a look at the sheriff's proposed policies on this, and then you can see, I'm sure we'll have a discussion of what the Oversight Commission thinks they should be at our next meeting. I'm pretty sure that'll happen. It's up to the chairs whether it's on the agenda or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really set a very bad precedent there by answering questions. I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This would definitely be on our agenda in March.
Ron Dow, followed by Greg Allen, followed by Raul Rodriguez Jr.
Again, Commissioners, I'll remind you, what gets measured gets done. But in April 2000, the competent leadership in the city of Compton disbanded the Compton PD and replaced it with the LA County Sheriff without referendum. Since then, through 2018, there, under the Sheriff's watch, there have been 827 murders, including 126 in surrounding unincorporated areas. Over the past 10 years, from 2009 to 2018, there have been 329 murders, including 54 from unincorporated areas, 40% Latinx, 59% Black, and 2% white. 28 suspects, or 8%, have been arrested over that time period. And since the sheriff is unable to take killers off the street, and the city has no plan other than to continue to deploy the sheriff, we propose a solution similar to the one leading to the arrest of the murderer of Victor McElhaney. That was in the LA Times article of the USC student that was arrested, that was killed, and the suspect subsequently arrested. We propose a reward of $75,000 to be set for the 301 murders in which an arrest has not been made over the past 10 years. That cost of about $22 million might be possibly offset from the LAPD budget, and to some extent maybe even the city of Compton. It's a small price for justice. If we can afford to give rewards for the death or the demise of girls in the Mojave Desert, certainly we can share some consideration for the human deaths and the murders that have gone unsolved to this day. Thank you.
Greg Allen, followed by Raul Rodriguez Jr., followed by Jacqueline Venters.
Good morning. everybody should be concerned about keeping Americans safe. Alex Villanueva rehired 27 people that we had let go. So in other words, management decided 27 people should have been dismissed. Now he's rehired them. LA Board of Supervisors cut off the pay to Officer Montoya. And I applaud that move. But what about the other 26? Let's cut off their pay as well. Let's get back to the Board of Supervisors and ask them to implement with HR to cut off this funds. These are our taxpayers' funds. I respect the management that let these 27 people go. I respect their decision. To bring them back on, I don't get that. I don't get it. Who's wrong? Were those people, if the management that's let them go, I want them disciplined if they did something wrong. But I believe and I support their decision to let them go. The rehire is outrageous behavior by our Alex Villanueva as sheriff. I want that outrageous behavior fixed by showing him that we, the people, hold the purse strings of the people he wants to rehire. Cut these people off financially. They're not going to show up at work anymore. Now that's what oversight's all about. We don't need people who've been fired in dealing with our public. I'd be afraid to deal with any of these people that were fired. And you should be too. So let's protect the community from these fired, rehired sheriffs. Thank you.
Raul Rodriguez Jr., followed by Jacqueline Venters, followed by Julie Diaz-Martinez.
Okay, I would like to start by saying that we have a Constitution and we have a First Amendment right. And I'm appalled that this commission, and we have lawyers and we have judges in this commission, have taken my First Amendment right away. I saw that sign out there in September, we did the same thing. I used to bring my signs in 20 by 30, and for some reason, you decided that I couldn't do that any longer. So the point I'm making is that I have filed a complaint to the County Board of Supervisors who appointed each of you to this commission. And I gave a letter to Patty Giggins, and I'm asking her to resign because she's not doing a very good job of representing the community. And also, you discriminate against me and other people who come to these meetings. So I'm asking you to resign, or Dave will probably ask you to resign. So you got a copy of the letter. And another thing I'm complaining about is the fact that we used to get 3 minutes to speak. Now you got it down to 2 minutes. What's next? 1 minute? That's another right we have. This commission shouldn't be doing that. We have rights. You're taking our rights away and you're giving them to other people like illegals. That's terrible. So please, change the way you do things to the people that speak here. We should be having 3 minutes to speak instead of 2. And I should be able to bring my 20 by 30 signs in here so I can voice my opinion. My opinion, it's either a verbal opinion or a sign like this. That's my First Amendment right. And I'm sure you agree. So please, change it.
Jacqueline Venters, followed by Leah Garcia, followed by Julie Diaz-Martinez.
I just wanted you guys to know that I'm not biased against the sheriff department or any other law enforcement. I have law enforcement in my family. I have sergeants, lieutenants, and my pastor is a deputy sheriff. And they're guiding me on this journey, and this is why I'm still here, standing here, fighting after 9 years, because, the push. They know what happened at the end. The gangs, our deputy gangs is real. My son went through a whole lot. He was mental, and all his mental rights were denied. He was forced to take a deal after the abuse that he received in the county jail. even the threat on his life. And after I was told that, I encouraged him to take the deal so we could remove him from the county jail. He didn't receive a visit for over a year, and that was after he got to Sacramento. And the sergeant was so nice to come out and asked me, what was going on. He went back there and he looked in his file. He said, ma'am, he had visits like everybody else. I don't know who put this in his folder. So for a whole year, we wasn't able to see him, and that wasn't right either. This retaliation followed him through every facility that he went in because of this wrongful allegation that this Deputy Gonzalo Souza made against him. And I'm looking at the news and stuff that, some of these inmates commit suicide, which is really sad because of some of the trumped up charges that these deputies put on our loved ones. While they're sitting in jail, fighting for their life, they're mentally, physically, and sexually abused. We had a young man that came home from prison from being in there 3 years and had never even been charged, and he killed himself because of the abuse that he received behind the walls. February, a part of the retaliation, my son was denied medical treatment. September, the doctor came back and apologized to him and told him that he was wrong. He should have never did that. They allowed my son to suffer all this time, and
Ma'am, I'm sorry, but our time is up.
it's okay.
Thank
It's
you
okay.
so much.
I'm gonna be back.
Okay, come back, please, you're welcome. Thank you.
Leah Garcia?
I'm Leah Garcia, Paul Reyna's mom. That was murdered June 27, 2019. I would like to report another incident of harassment by the East LA Sheriff's Department. I moved from the area around 3 weeks ago, and last week I got a call from one of the neighbors where Paul's memorial at, stating that the East LA sheriff went to her door knocking and asking her questions about me and my family. The last question that they did ask was, does she know where we live now? That really got me scared because if it was business of the sheriff's department, they know my contact info and they have my number as well. For them to go and ask a neighbor, I got really afraid. I find it intimidating. They're trying to intimidate me and that neighbor. She got really scared. She has nothing to do with me and my family. She's been a nervous wreck since then because she said they were really kind of demanding about it. And she kept on saying, no, I do not know where they live now. This is the kind of harassment me and my family do get on a daily. Not maybe just, asking about us, but the looks, when they look at us, it looks to kill. I do not feel safe, and I don't know where to turn to. If I go into the sheriff's department to write a complaint, I have before. I talked to the captain, Mejia, and it's just lies I get. Lies that they're not mad at me, he says. They're not mad at me. Why should they be mad at me in the first place? Is because he said that all that I have said in the media. They're not mad at me. I don't know where to turn next.
Thank you.
And if I could, address not working on it. Oh, here we go. I just wanted to address the status of the harassment investigation because the Sheriff's Department is not here today, but I did receive an email from them yesterday that they had anticipated having that concluded, but I think related to this issue, they were investigating it or looking into it, and so they're holding off on that. I received a letter from the sheriff asking for OIG cooperation in that. We sent back a letter saying absolutely have any of your assigned investigators contact my head of my audits and investigations. We'd be happy to help them with outreach so that we can speak to people in a way that doesn't intimidate them and make sure that the Sheriff's Department isn't sending the wrong message if that's not their plan. But we haven't gotten any response on that regard. But I do know that I think they're aware of this issue and that they are anticipating responding. I can't say anything about the nature of the investigation or how it's going, but so that issue is on the table, and hopefully soon we'll hear something from them.
Justice for Paul.
Please imagine a government entity that is emboldened enough to act with impunity. Please imagine a public entity that acts with malice towards the public. Imagine a law enforcement agency operating as a gang while wearing a badge. Imagine a police force that uses this badge as a free pass to commit lawlessness. Imagine a sheriff department that shoots to kill our kids in the back. In any other country, we would examine these issues and we would label this entity as a paramilitary syndicate. In any other city in the United States, we would call this sheriff department a criminal syndicate. In any other small town across America, we would fear such an entity. And we do fear the LA County Sheriff Department in our community. We appeal to you to end the LA County Sheriff Department's destruction of our communities. Since Jackie Lacey has been in office, over 500 officer-involved shootings have been attributed to law enforcement, and yet Lacey has only investigated and charged and held one individual sheriff accountable for a death. We as a community look to you for both leadership and most importantly, we look to you for protection. And really quickly, I have just a minute to talk. You mentioned that you complimented the sheriff on producing that document saying that he does not endorse that within his department. You need to look a little further. He's calling them cliques. He's treating them like a frat boy, hazing activity. In addition to that, he has a policy, and it's a stated policy in writing that I can share with you, in which he claims that the sheriff department does not track any gang activity or clique members.
Thank you.
Luis Silva, followed by Johnny Torres, followed by Joshua Wafer.
I'd just like to say that there's been a big difference with Alex Villanueva being sheriff. What I've seen in the past with Baca, we know where his new residence is nowadays, and McDonald. I tried to talk to him about the problems at East LA. I've gotten to know a lot of the deputies, and there's been some bad ones too, and I can say they're not there anymore. My opinion is he's done things to change things around. He's gotten rid of people. On the very first day, he got rid of people. And I just think that the department is going in the right way, the right direction. You can't take 12 years and try to change it over in 2 years, 3 years. Sometimes it takes longer, you know. And I just want to let you know that I've seen a lot of good things come out of East LA Station. My business was in East LA for 62 years. My business still is in the LA County area, and I support the Sheriff's Station, East LA. I support Alex Villanueva on what he's doing, and I feel you guys should back him up as well.
Johnny Torres, followed by Joshua Wafer, followed by Dr. Alan Zuckerman.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I don't know if I have enough time in 2 minutes, but I just wanted to share that, you know, before I came working gang interventions in East LA and being funded by Hilda Solis' office and being supported by Hilda Solis, over a decade I worked in the city of LA, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, El Sereno, particularly with the GRID program, which is Gang Reduction Youth Development. There was a strong relationship between intervention and LAPD, and unfortunately that is not occurring in East Los Angeles with the Sheriff's Department or even the City of Industry. We cover all of District 1 with a focus in East LA, and Hilda Solis, she can only force the relationship to a certain degree, but not like in the city with the mayor. So maybe hopefully you guys could help with that, because one of the main reasons that we want a relationship is because not just have that good line of communication with each other so we know what's going on both ends and what we offer, especially as intervention, but one of the big pieces is crisis response. And we service the family with counseling, victims of crime advocacy, making sure that they're taken care of, additional support. And just from March of 2019 and to now, we responded to 30 crises within District 1, 14 in East Los Angeles, 16 in the city of La Puente, and that is absolutely with no relationship with the sheriffs at all. So I wonder how many families are slipping through the cracks that hopefully wish to service and help with their trauma and their time of hardship. Because in LAPD, we would get a notification whenever a crisis occurred. But in East Los Angeles or in District 1, that does not exist. And even with that in consideration, we still responded to 30 crises within District 1 within the 10-month span that I just mentioned. And out of those crises, 3 were officer-involved shootings that occurred in East Los Angeles and 1 in Montebello. Thankfully, nobody was fatally hurt in Montebello. And I'll close it with this. Even though the officer just spoke before me, said that Alex is doing a great job, he's still rocking the Ford Apache. Like I told you guys, I'm Apache. And to an Apache man celebrating a Holocaust, that is very offensive. Nitashi, shininde. Gracias.
Thank you. Would you, one second, would you mind, no? Fine. Just, would you mind leaving your card, and so maybe we can facilitate that intersection with the sheriff? Thank you so much.
Joshua Wafer, followed by Dr. Alan Zuckerman, followed by Kane Arteaga.
Hi, my name is Joshua Wafer. I came here today just to say, I don't know everything, but, I believe in accountability, just like I think everyone in this room does. I believe the sheriff should be held accountable. I believe county supervisors who appointed you all should be held accountable, just like you all should be held accountable, and myself. And I agree to disagree. It doesn't mean that I disagree with everything that a person is saying, but just in part, I may disagree. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people in this room that disagree with the sheriff or agree with the sheriff. But there was an election, a historic election, where there was an overwhelming amount of support, me included, that voted for the sheriff to do something in our community. And all those people aren't here today. So all I'm saying is that if you voted for someone, or if the people voted for someone, and the people said, yes, this is who we want to represent us in our community and do their job, then allow that person to do it. Period. Because I think if Sheriff McDonald was here, we wouldn't be having these conversations. So all I'm saying is that if you all are here appointed to be the voice of everyone in this room and everyone in our community and the county, we can have differences. Let's discuss those to find some common ground. Thank you.
Dr. Alan Zuckerman, followed by Kane Arteaga.
I'll have to start off where I left off before. Alexville, being the way they inherited all of the department's problems and eradicated many of them by first removing all of the executive staff that McDonald kept in place, and also began a review of disciplinary cases of deputies who were wrongfully disciplined, demoted, or terminated during the McDonald era. He simply followed the mandate of the AirCom Commission. Under the new Sheriff Academy classes are now at capacity, jail violence is down, proactive policing has returned, arrests are up and crime is down. There is now ongoing training which didn't exist before, as well as a reduction in overtime pay, resulting in a reduction of the budget. It's quite an accomplishment in his brief tenure. Sheriff Wheel, in a way that takes deputies' due process just as seriously as the rights of the citizens he is sworn to protect. By investigating the cases of those rights that were violated and reinstating those wrongfully terminated, it is what our system of justice demands. Not affording law enforcement personnel or any employee protection of their due process results in precisely what occurred under Sheriff McDonald. Low morale, an inability to recruit qualified candidates resulting in low staffing, a rise in overtime pay and ballooning budget. Sheriff Villanueva understands this. Sheriff Villanueva has not withheld data that is legally discoverable by the COC. The use of subpoena is unnecessary. I believe the use of subpoena will only elicit a contentious relationship as opposed to mutually supportive working one. His numerous accomplishments should be recognized and supported. The sheriff swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. You will find he takes that real seriously, and I thank you for providing this forum to express my viewpoints. I'm not an employee of LASD nor a member of the volunteer of the Sheriff's Campaign Organization. In fact, I actually supported Bob Lindsay. Thank you.
I'm glad you came back to complete your statement.
Dan Arteaga?
Good morning. I'm here because my younger brother was killed at the Twin Towers facility in 2018, and the sheriffs covered it up. They lied about it. They didn't follow their own procedures for officer-related incidents. You guys talked about officer shootings today, but before the policy was the same for any incident that involved law enforcement, whether it was shooting or in custody deaths, they should be the same procedures. As of this morning, I looked up my brother's information, he's still on the website. I was concerned that that would be eliminated since they updated the system. And so here we are, 2 years later, and he's still, according to the website, an inmate at Twin Towers with no release date set. Just crazy. Yeah. That needs to be addressed. Like I said, the sheriffs, the homicide department deputies, you would assume that they would be of the most, the highest caliber, of the highest integrity they would have. You know, you think they'd be true professionals, but they're not. Like I said, they're liars. I would like to see criminal charges brought against these people to set the example. Them investigating their own, as was mentioned here earlier, is completely inappropriate. It's wrong. It's incredible. It makes no sense. Why not, implement some kind of plan where there's some kind of like Mothers of America kind of group, maybe, yeah, something like that.
Thank you. Your time is up. What's your brother's name?
Daniel Arteaga.
Orgiaga or Arteaga?
Arteaga.
Arteaga. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to, any comments from you? Okay, so thank you all for coming out on a Saturday. It's the first time you've been able to do this, and I appreciate that we've had